So I'm talking today a little bit about what I see as being the universal blind spot. And the universal blind spot, as far as I can see it, is self-compassion. You know, I get to meet a lot of people in my travels, in my meetings and retreats, etc., who are really good-hearted people, really open, loving, generous, kind people. And you know, they would always try to be of service to others, try to be there for others. And yet, to be there for themselves is harder, much harder. And of course, this is not just in the groups that I have, this is universal. You know, what is it that makes it much harder to be with ourselves in our struggles than it is with other people? So I often use the analogy that if, you know, a frightened little boy or little girl came into a room and you were sitting there and you could see that child was distressed, in some kind of emotional pain, how would you react and respond? And invariably people will say to me, well, I would reach out to the child, I would hold them, I'd reassure them, I'd comfort them in some way. I think that's a natural response that we would all do. And yet, when we have feelings of distress or feelings of sadness or anger, whatever it might be, just difficult feelings, the response to that from most people is, I just want to get rid of these feelings. I just want these feelings to go away. So you see immediately the discrepancy between how we would deal with something outside and how we deal with something inside. And all of this really is about changing the relationship to ourselves, so that when these difficult feelings arise, when these challenges arise, that rather than trying to get rid of these emotions, rather than saying that they're wrong and I shouldn't be having them, especially because I'm quote unquote spiritual, could it be that somehow that is an expression of our own inner child? It's an expression of maybe a very young part of ourself that is looking for some sort of reassurance, some sort of validation, some sort of conscious holding, conscious presence from us. So whether we have an abandonment wound, whether we have a betrayal wound, whether we have some kind of rejection wound, can we stop abandoning, betraying, rejecting ourselves? You know, can we stop neglecting ourselves and taking care of everybody else? And really, you know, I see that this is a universal blind spot. And I see that it's a universal blind spot because of the disconnect. Because we are not connected, most of us are not connected to those parts of ourselves, so we just dismiss it. We dismiss it. And the way to build a much more compassionate and healthy connection to that part of ourselves is to begin to see that, to begin to see those parts as being young and maybe vulnerable in some way and maybe in need of our love. Then we're going to view it completely differently, and not just something that we want to get rid of, but something that we want to consciously explore, There are parts of us that we need to consciously explore. So I hope this is helpful, and I wish you every success in doing this, because it's not easy to begin to go on that journey into oneself.